Are you one of those players who slices the ball? I know it's a big group. And you've heard of this term called shallowing the golf club, and you think that it might help you. What we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at, first of all, what it is, what it isn't, what the purpose of it is, and how to achieve it if it is good for your golf swing. Hi, I'm Peter Knight. I've created this channel, Peter Knight Golf, to help you play the best golf you possibly can. And if you watch each of the videos that I put out weekly, then hopefully that's exactly what will happen. But for today, let's have a look at this concept called shallowing the golf club. When I set myself up, you can see that the club is already sitting at an angle. I get to the top of my backswing and the club is above and behind me now. So the club's moved on an angled path from address to the top of the swing. What I'm looking to do is I'm looking for that club to pretty much match that same angled path as the club moves back toward the ball, so that when I strike the ball, the path of the club is heading toward the target and the club faces square to give me a straight shot. When the club moves down and moves too steeply, then that's likely to cause the club to swing out this way. I'm exaggerating, of course, and then across the ball to the left, which gives me a pulled shot, so straight left for a right-hander, or a slice. Especially as the club gets longer, it's more likely to be that slice. So this idea of, say, steep versus shallow versus correct is what we're talking about. So when I set myself up, whatever angle that is, if you imagine a line sort of running from the ball through my elbow here, my club shaft is below it at the start. When I get to the end of my backswing, the club will be above it, but ideally pretty close to parallel to it. And then as I swing down, it'll move back down and track on that line as my club approaches impact. That's what I want ideally. When the club moves this way, it's steeper than that angle that I want. Now, things that can cause that, and here's where we can sort of start to, I guess, analyze the movement a little bit, is that if I begin rotating my arm and my hand too early, and that can either be a left-handed thing, a right-handed thing, or a combination of the two, that's going to make the club move much more steeply than what I want. Other things that can affect it, when I get to the start of my downswing, ideally I'm looking for lower body to lead the movement, but if I start with my hands, arms, or upper body, it's going to start the club moving on a track that's also going to lead to the club moving in a steep path down and across the ball there. They're the two main things that are going to create that path, and that's the same for any sliced shot. So what I want to do is, through exaggeration, is to get the feeling of doing the opposite. So that as the club swings down, and again, this is an exaggeration for effect, if that's the path that I want the club to swing down on, and from here you can see that an imaginary extension of the butt of my club should be pointed somewhere along my target line, which is the line running between the ball and the target. So as the club's swinging down, the butt of the club should be tracing a line along that target line as I swing down toward the ball. So the feel of shallowing is actually to get the club to move on an angle like this. So what we want to do is to create a feeling of not manipulating that movement, but we actually want the club to move down correctly so that we're not exaggerating one way or the other. So first way is that if I make a practice swing with my right arm here and feel like my right arm is almost going to fall, so my right arm and the club is just going to fall vertically. Now if I add a natural body turn to that, as the club's falling, it's falling on an angle, so it's not moving directly down, but my body turn creates that movement. Now when I do that with one hand, without trying, I'm literally letting it fall, so I'm not pulling down with my arm or forcing with my hand, the club will actually swing on the correct path. So when I put two hands on the club, I want to do the same thing. From the top of the swing, I'm going to let my arms and hands fall as my body turns, and that's going to create the correct path for me. So that's the first way to do it. If I set an alignment rod up in the ground, and I'll only do this with practice. I'm not going to hit a shot with it, but when I set myself up, the alignment rod is roughly the same angle as my shaft at address, might be a little bit steeper. As the club goes back to the top of the swing, it'll move back down underneath it and then move up. Now, if I allow my club to move correctly in the downswing, the club is going to work down and underneath that and back toward the ball. So now if I've got the combination of allowing my arm and the club to fall with that body rotation, and I'm monitoring it with something like the alignment rod, my club path is likely to be very correct. So I'll move the ball out of the way. So now if I just make that same swing back and through, my club is going to miss the alignment rod as it's swinging down and through. So the alignment rod is more of a visual cue. And even if I'm, say, a bit further forward, so it's out of range of my swing, it's still a good visual cue for me. So when I'm playing the shot, if I make that movement correctly, let's see what happens. But as you're practicing that movement and getting the feel of either using the alignment rod, getting the feel of the arms and club falling in the downswing, combined with that body rotation is what gives us the correct path. As you get used to doing that, you'll find that not only will the shots go straighter, but if you've been a chronic slicer, you might even find that when we exaggerate it a tiny bit, you're actually able to create a draw. What a dream that would be.